Well, good morning. We are going to get started here. I am Audrey Grabesic. I am with Modular Site. We are a consulting corporation that assists with multifamily, commercial, residential projects, getting people from the beginning to where the project is actually set up in the factory. It's a lot of words in a small amount of time. I appreciate everybody being here. Offsitedirt.com is my media platform, and every month at the last Tuesday of the month, we always interview some amazing guests in the industry, whether it be in panelized, volumetric, as we're seeing, set and stitch, education, and so many more areas. So if you need some updates or information on offsite construction, please tune in to our website, as we are always bringing in new content. Today is our Offsite Construction Series. The topic is trends in set and stitch on modular projects, and we are featuring Ty and Josh with T&M Construction. Thank you so much, Ty and Josh, for being here. We are so excited to have you, and I am very excited to be able to have this discussion, because as people are becoming more aware of offsite construction, and particularly modular construction, this is one of the key elements to being able to have a successful project. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Audrey.
So why don't we start off just really, let's start off briefly with Ty. Ty, give us a little bit of your background, and Josh, you lead in after, and then we'll kind of let you take the screen away and go through your presentation.
So my name is Ty Toler. I am the managing member of Tnm Construction Group, and I have spent the last 24 years in construction. Started as an iron worker in upstate Illinois, and moved to Denver, joined a general contracting firm, a national general contractor, spent 6-7 years with them, bouncing around the country, and then had some modular experience with on the forefront, I guess, of modular, going into commercial construction and some barracks and some stuff we'll show you later for the military housing that we did with the Corps of Engineers. And yeah, so we've gotten back into modular as everything's come full circle. We've started our company and have brought our experiences through our general construction experience along with modular set and stitch, and brought it all together, and now back in the industry, trying to make it better.
I love it. That is awesome. And it's very exciting, because this last week there has been a lot of movement going on in the offsite construction arena. This last Friday, we were at the Denver, Colorado Convention Center, and Josh and I were lucky enough to be at the event. Josh, give us a little bit of background about T&M Construction and your lead in that company.
Absolutely. So my name is Joshua McShanog. I'm one of the partners in T&M Construction Group as well. I've got about 6-7 years of big commercial experience. When I got my start, I was building big hotels, big airports, very large scale commercial projects. And when I linked up with Ty Toler, we had started our own company, and we had basically found ourselves in this unique situation of set and stitching projects. So like Ty said, he had done a very large project in Fort Carson, which is 400 modular boxes. And when we had the unique opportunity of running into you, Audrey, we had said it's time to get into the set and stitch world. So T&M Construction has been around for 2+ years, and we are focusing on single family homes, but doing bigger developments. We're also focusing on multifamily, whether that be townhouses, condos, or apartment buildings. And we have been looking at the hospitality side of things as well. But the kind of unique thing about T&M Construction is we're not only a set and stitch contractor, because we come from that unique side of big commercial construction and Ty's steel erection background. We kind of blend and round out the entire team, because we can coordinate with the architects and the developers and the manufacturers and really see everything at all angles, because we've done it before, and we've continued doing this. So when we first got kind of our start in this with T&M Construction, we definitely saw this vacuum of larger scale modular projects, because typically the modular industry on the single family home side has been set by temporary trailer erectors, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when you go to bigger scale projects, you in turn go to large commercial construction, which is a very different project or process than single family homes. So with our unique experience, we're able to blend our set and stitch skills with our big commercial skills and blend that and round out that entire team, where it seems to be, like I said, a vacuum in the industry right now that we're able to fill. So that is really kind of T&M Construction Group in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Do you want to bring up your slides so we can kind of maybe walk through a couple of your projects and give us a little bit of insight on those details?
Absolutely. Let me share right now. So like I said, we're T&M Construction Group. So this was the project that we were talking about. So this project was constructed in 2007. It was approximately 6,400 modular boxes. This was for the infantry barracks, but it was approximately 500,000 square feet. And I'll kind of bridge that to Ty, as he had more experience on this project as I did. But this is kind of the claim to fame for the partners at T&M Construction Group. This is how the team got their experience and start even before T&M Construction Group was officially a company.
So in 2006, when this MATOC came out from the Corps of Engineers, they hired the construction firm that I was working with to design build this barracks, this soldier realignment, to bring the soldiers after their deployment to Iraq and Afghanistan. They would actually be deployed from Fort Bliss and Fort Hood, and then 35,000 soldier influx coming back to Fort Carson after their tour was over. The problem with that was nobody could build enough houses or temporary housing or any kind of housing in 15 months, which was the length of the deployment. So the construction firm that I was with came up with this. It was a complete design build by GC. So we owned the architect, we owned the engineers, we owned basically owned the Corps of Engineers. They kind of took a back seat to the entire project. We brought in the modular builders, and basically all these boxes are 70 foot long by 15 foot wide. And so they were all center corridors, but you can see the configurations that we set them in. They weren't just run of the mill, straight line barracks buildings. These were very architecturally advanced structures. We used a thin brick system on the outside to make it, fit the post and what the post was looking for in their new design, their architectural design for the entire post. Metal roofs over wood trusses, but all the living units inside this thing were completely 100% modular. The knuckles, as we called them, in the X's on each side in the center of the building for like the reception area, the common spaces, those are all framed in structural steel, and then the modulars were set and stacked against them. This was right after after 9/11, when the government came out with the new progressive collapse standards for engineering, so that if they had a issue with the first floor, like a car bomb or a suitcase bomb or anything, that the additional floors would not fall like we saw at the Pentagon. So this was one of the first projects that was wood structure that was over 3 stories that took into account the progressive collapse engineering standards and took just on the post. So this was about $1.5 billion in construction in these. There was about 8 different projects affiliated, but 7 of the 8 had barracks, modular barracks on them. And that was completed in 24 months, designed to soldiers being in the units on the post. So that was extremely fast, extremely huge project, a lot of people, a lot of effort. Our designers were in Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia. We had designers in California, And we were set up here at Fort Carson in Colorado Springs, Colorado, to get all this done. I think we employed about every modular manufacturer in the country, did some part, had some hand in this, bringing these boxes, these amount of boxes together and that fast of a period. So it's very exciting.
Tyler, I have a couple of questions on this because I think this is a super amazing example of how amazing modular can be. When you were working with all these different manufacturers, were they all bringing off the same plan set to be able to have the specifications, to be able to make sure that all those boxes were of the same size and being able to be structurally connected? How did that all work? Because that's a lot of boxes and a lot of different diversity of factories.
Yeah, so these buildings, as you can see, they're all identical. So we did have one plan set, one design set that went out to, we were working with the Warrior Group at the time, and they were kind of taking over the modular construction, and they were like sub-fabricating out to other vendors to help them get the project done in time. So there was one drawing set, but it was very closely coordinated with all the teams.
Amazing. And then how many boxes were you able to set each day, and how long did this project take?
I think we set everything out in about 9 months, start to finish, and that was skinned, roofed, everything. So we started foundations 15 months before our deadline for our turnover, and our foundation systems, we actually employed a auger pressure grouted pile system rather than caissons because of the soil types on Fort Carson are pretty rough to deal with. But we did the auger pressure grouted piles, put the grade beams on them, and started setting boxes as soon as the concrete cured, and basically chased them out. So these production crews on these sets were getting anywhere from 20 to 30 boxes a day at the 70 foot by 15, and then completely stitched. So what we spent time on in design is simplifying the set and stitch, making the connections simple, minimizing the amount of extra work that it takes to connect the things together. And then with the MEPs and the center corridor configuration, getting everything in the ceiling of those corridors to make the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing set and stitch very, very simple. So there were no connections inside the boxes, inside the living units. When they showed up, they were done 100%. We didn't walk in them other than to punch them out. All the connections were made in the corridors. All the connections between modulars were made with the strapping details on the exterior. Nothing in the roofs, nothing in the ceilings, no access panels. Everything was done in the corridor above the corridor lid. So it's a very, very slick, well thought out design. And it was the only way we were able to do that many boxes in that short amount of time.
When you guys were putting together this plan, because this is a huge building and a huge effort to coordinate a lot of these schedules, when were you brought into the discovery of this project? Were you hired at a specific point? Can you kind of lay out how that worked with you getting integrated into this program or into this build?
So I was a area superintendent on another project, and this was the next project for us to go to. So we had closed out a huge maintenance hangar that I was doing at SkyWest Airport in Colorado Springs, and then we got moved over to Fort Carson. So I was there from ground break. I had several flights to Roanoke, Virginia, and Alexandria, Virginia, to work with AECOM and HSMM, where our engineers and architects of record, and coordinating the foundation design into the progressive collapse with the structural steel elements, with the modular building elements. And as I said, it was design build. We had a lot of smart people on it that had worked on, we had done smaller modular projects on Fort Bliss and Fort Hood and a couple other forts in Texas, but nothing to this scale. So we figured out a way to scale it larger and make it happen faster based on the experience we had with the fellows that worked on those other projects.
Did they bring in the engineers to talk with you guys so you kind of understood how these structurally were being able to be constructed? How did it work when you got the plan set? And then obviously a lot of people are kind of new to the modular industry, and this is one more piece of the product, right? You have the boxes, that you have the site work that starts, you have the modular boxes that are actually getting transported on site, and then you have your specific cranes that need to be able to know what the size boxes are, the weight of those boxes. And then we have your team that actually installs and has crews onto the actual site itself to connect the boxes. So when you were in this process, were you brought in as it was already being designed? Were you brought in the process after? When did you guys come into this project?
So on this project, I was superintendent for the general contractor. I was not the modular erector. So it was my first experience with modular in any scale, really. So working with the engineers, working with the designers, working with the plants, the modular manufacturers, working with the erectors, we were able to cohesively put a plan together on how to execute this project, how it was going to be designed, what the limitations in the design were, just taking into account the post requirements, the requirements for the Army Corps of Engineers on their design elements, but really letting them take a back seat and letting us run with this, because there was no way they could keep up with it. They had never done modular in any scale either. And usually this project would take 2 to 3 years just in design. We had about 6 months that we had to design the entire thing, because we had to get boxes getting fabricated and start our foundations. One of these buildings each of these buildings, I believe, has over 600 piles, auger pressure grouted piles that are about 30 foot long and 18 inches in diameter, in a foundation system that had to go, in very, very quickly, followed by those massive grade beams to put a crawl space under all of these buildings. So the site effort was moving forward. We had sidewalks in, curb and gutter, asphalt, all before the boxes were even able to show up. We had to push, all the construction forward, not just the building and foundation. It was kind of all coming together at one time. So there's a lot of players, a lot of people involved, a lot of coordination, a lot of offsite coordination, trips to the plant in Iowa and Texas to make sure that boxes were getting done correctly. Our QC, QA managers were, round tripping weekly to the different plants to oversee the processes. Plus, we were taking Corps of Engineer people along with their quality program. It's just a massive, massive undertaking. But the key to the whole thing was early coordination. We got the erectors involved very early. We got their feedback. We had ours from the GC standpoint. We knew what the client wanted, and we knew what the engineering limitations were and the architectural limitations. So getting all that information together early was the only way to get this project off the ground. So all these projects going forward, where we are positioning ourselves as an asset, is that we want to be involved early because we bring that coordination experience to the table, make it known, and then you can make a plan around that and plan for your successful project in a timely delivery.
That's awesome. Josh, do you have another slide that you want to share? And then let's just make sure we're kind of taking this a little bit off the cuff. If you have any questions, let's make sure to put them in the chat. We'd love to make sure that we have a little time at the end of this to have a little question and answer, because again, this is such an unusual experience to be able to have these guys here and available, and they're actually running after this event to another set. So we're certainly happy to have you guys here.
Awesome, Audrey. So another slide that I want to show you guys is a project that we're doing, that we're in that process of construction in Georgetown, Texas, and it's a townhouse community. The reason why I wanted to show everybody this one is because we're talking about the trends in the set and stitch, and I think this one kind of fits perfectly of where I think that trend is going in the next 5 years. So this project utilizes slab on grade boxes, which is very unusual for this industry right now. Typically, you're doing it on foundation walls and having that crawl space, but this is utilizing slab on grade boxes, so going directly to the slab, but also integrating a panelized system to minimize boxes. So you're minimizing costs there for a developer and the manufacturer. So it's a very unique project, because to blend those boxes, but then also having those slab on grade connections is pretty amazing on the engineering side. This project is about 4 buildings. They're 3 stories each, 27 individual townhouse units, for a total of approximately about 120 boxes, with utilizing that panelized system.
So when Josh, when you're talking about the panelized system, you're talking about in between the boxes, there's also going to be a panel. So how does that connection work for you guys? How do you align, this type of process for this specific type of set?
Absolutely. So you would want to set your boxes first. So you set your boxes first, and then you can infill your panels. So basically you're reducing your time on site and your material costs, because you don't necessarily need those double walls in between, because you're utilizing kind of like a stick framed project. So you're really seeing that that savings and that time and money with this type of system. And I really feel that once you see this type of system, more and more manufacturers and developers are going to want this, because of that's what modular construction is all about, is how can we be more efficient, whether that's, a time savings or a cost savings.
Yeah,
So
another
when
piece
we
of
were
this
talking,
sorry, I just wanted to
no,
add
go
one little
ahead.
thing
Go ahead,
on
Ty. Yes, for sure.
trucking costs. Trucking costs are really escalating in the space, in the world right now, but also for specialized trucking, which is what we have to deal with on these modular boxes to get them delivered to the site. So this manufacturer has come up with a plan to reduce the trucks because of the panel systems, the flat packs. I can get 3 entire units out on one truck, where normally it'd be 1 level per truck, 1 box per truck. So this will actually help, save some costs on some trucking, which is a really big and volatile piece of these projects. So that's why I think the panelization systems are going to be a wave of the future. It's going to be something we're going to have to look at, because it is getting more and more expensive to ship stuff around this country.
I totally agree with you. And the other unique thing about this particular approach is that many of the inspections on the boxes and the panel are actually done in the factory by the third-party inspector. And then when they come to the site, they're able to also finish up those inspections. So I'm guessing that will probably also assist with this whole process of getting this project done a lot quicker than usual. Josh, you have anything else to add on this amazing project?
I don't think so, without, I guess, giving away too much on it, but that's kind of we really think that that's the future, because at the expo, it seemed that there were a couple questions asked of, what do we do with this basically labor shortage, right? So we all know with the modular, you're able to almost consolidate your labor, right? Because everybody goes to the factory, so you're not running all over town chasing subcontractors. Everybody's going to one factory. But like Ty was saying, well, if you have a labor shortage in drivers, a solution is less trips, right? So if you're able to package multiple units by utilizing a panelized system with the boxes, you're saving trips, and that alleviates some of that pressure on a project, is that you save on the amount of drivers and the trips that you're actually taking from the manufacturing plant to the job site.
I totally agree with you. So I'm just going to hit you up with a couple of quick questions. One in particular was from Arteca Architects, and they were asking, did the panels and the panels and the boxes come out of the same factory, or was it a separate supplier?
Yes, so those panels and the boxes came from the same factory. So this whole project is basically architecturally designed and manufactured by the same plant.
Awesome. And then Rami came up and he said, How do you ensure consistency in material procured, and how do you generally proceed with material procurement, especially considering there are different facilities you're coordinating? So that was actually for the building before, but it's still relative. So how do you have consistency in your material procurement? I guess how do you face that challenge?
I think the manufacturers have that struggle. So they are doing large commodity buys to try and get like material to be able to produce a building of these sizes, right? So they're buying all the siding at one time. They're buying all the windows at one time. So they have the right materials before they ever go and really do the project to start the manufacturing process.
One other quick question came up. How did your project use closed wall panels or open wall panels? From John Harding.
On the Spin the Oaks project, they are closed walls, and then there's floor panels. So floor panels, ceiling panels, and wall systems. So you're basically just splitting a box into 6 panels, and that's how you're implementing the system. So you have a box to the right, a box to the left, and you infill that open area with a panelized deck, a panelized ceiling, and the panelized end walls. That answers the question.
Absolutely. John goes, got it. Thank you, John. Go ahead, Josh. It's all yours again.
So yeah, I mean, that's really kind of our niche and our unique thing is T&M Construction wants to be on your project as early as possible, because the whole team has the same goal, right? A developer's goal is to get this project done as quickly as possible with the quality and open his doors. Ours is to get the project done as quickly as possible with quality and turn it over to the owner. So the team has the same goal, so everybody should be playing on the same team and pushing towards that objective. And that's really our approach and how we like to do business, and how we become a instrumental part of the team is get us in early, and we can come up with these ideas and ways to save us time and money from the beginning. If you typically, if you bring us on, when we're 2 weeks out from setting, there's not much implementation that we can provide. But I guess the whole key to us is the coordination piece, being able to communicate with the architects, the engineers, the manufacturers, the developers, and the general contractors. If we're not the general contractor, we can still communicate and coordinate with the general contractor and really round out this whole team so that you're receiving the benefit of modular construction. Because it doesn't do us any good to utilize modular construction, not coordinate, and have the same time on site as a traditional stick frame project. I mean, that's the whole goal of the modular industry, is to increase the efficiencies on speed of construction and cost for your project.
So Josh, I have a question for you, because I think this is really important. When you are doing a modular project and you're looking at the structural connections, which typically comes from the structural engineer, when you're reviewing those different details, are a lot of those provided just because the structural engineer communicates with the architect and they come up with a plan, or how do they determine what kind of structural connections that are going to be happening on the building? How does that part happen?
So a lot of times it's a matter of fact of, it looks really good on paper, but maybe not as practical in the field. And that's really where we come in. So it may seem that this is the cheapest design that we can come up with that gets the job done, right? That's safe and effective. However, when you look at it as a point of, okay, but the connection in the field takes 3 times as long as if we went with a little bit more expensive material to make the connection, that's where we come in and can really help the structural engineer and be like, it's going to take us a lot of time to set these boxes out. You know, if say, for example, well, you have a fully welded connection on a box, and you have to go all the way around and weld out and inspect before you can set the next box. Well, that means we get one, maybe two boxes a day. And, you know, everybody on this call probably knows that that's not what we've been hearing in modular construction. We should be able to set 8, 10 boxes a day. So you really, you know, it just goes back to that coordination early on in the project is we have seen what connections work and what connections don't work. And I'm sure Ty can jump in here and add a few more details, but we really like pushing for the early coordination because of reasons like that.
Yeah, we really do not want engineers designing connection details in a vacuum. We like to be involved and give our feedback, because constructability for the modulars is very important. And when we develop an erection sequence on how we're going to put a building together, they may not have that information. So their strapping details may be linked to one box on a mate line and then covering that on another way. But if that's different than how we need to erect the building, you know, either a center out, or if we're doing a stack for a tower, like we will on Finley Oaks, we'll tower stack 3 levels and then go over and do level 1, level 2, go over and do level 1, and just kind of stair step it all the way back. The connection details for the structural connections are very important in driving that sequence, and really maximizes whether we can get 20 boxes a day or whether we're going to do 5 to 10 boxes a day, is all in the connection details. So the more information we can get to the engineers while they're designing to the uplift requirements and you know, taking the horizontal loading and the compression loading all into account to get these things to stand together as one, we want to be involved. That's where we can add most of our value, really, and make the project a much bigger success and keep the cost under control for the client and future costs. Because if we come in late on a project and our cost on, you know, the last 2/3 of the project during design, those change orders are a lot more expensive than if we do it in the first third. So it's easy to get sidetracked with that, because engineers and architects are used to working ahead of time and not really engaging the GC or the erector early as they probably should or could. So that's what we're really pushing for with all the engineers and architects out there, and the modular designers. Some of them are architects as well. But getting everybody to a cohesive team early, and then let's go produce it and let's build it.
I have to agree with you. And I think it's so great that you guys keep talking about a team environment, because I think that's one of the things that makes it exciting for us as a consulting firm to be able to join those people together and to have that form of communication. And as everybody on this call is seeing, you know, planning for every type of traditional or you know, offsite kind of project, it's still in the planning, right? It's still in the communication, it's still in the teamwork. And so I love that you guys are integrating it. Josh, I would love it if, I know this is kind of on the fly, but would you be able to show them a video of one of your sets?
Yes, I've got it in here. We'll see if it cooperates, but let's see if we can play this.
Okay.
So this was a project that we have down in Salida, Colorado, which is about an hour and a half southwest into the mountains of Colorado Springs. So this is basically the first day of the boxes. We were, because of the sequence out of the factory, we were only getting about 4 a day. But this time lapse kind of shows, you know, where we're putting it together. And we set these boxes. We were setting a box every 20 minutes was our pace on this project. So let's see if we can get this to play for us. So we had I grabbed the last 2 boxes on here, but we did 2 before that, and those are the last two on the project. But like I said, when you have the right connection and pick points and all of that, a box every 20 minutes is a pretty quick pace to set out with one crew.
Absolutely. That was pretty cool. I wish that would have worked. Oh yeah, here we go. You get to see it one more time. I would love to open up the floor for questions because again, this is such a unique environment to be able to have these guys on here. Are there any questions from our participants? And if so, please unmute yourself and go for it. Come on, Jeff. I know you can give me a question or two.
Hello. Can I be heard?
Go ahead.
Is that-
Absolutely, Rami, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So just to give some background from my context, so I'm more focused on the software side of things to finding solutions to how you make procurement simpler. So I just wonder in this whole process, at least from your exposure, to what extent is software implemented in the procurement process? Or just general management, I guess, but more specifically procurement, but the question's open to any software implementation in general.
On a product procurement side, I'm not sure, Rami, but I know that the factories that are that have their processes in order are usually using software. So I know that on a project management side, they are utilizing that software. Where I think trends in modular construction would be probably what's the slowest process in a manufacturer's day is getting a estimate out, just because of if you're conceptualizing a apartment building or condos or whatever you're doing, they may have their the developer may have the mix that they need to utilize, but it still takes a manufacturer to a decent amount of time to produce that conceptual estimate. So if there is a software out there that's trending that can take, say, a mix of of what you need at the studios, of one bedrooms, things like that, and produce a down and dirty budget estimate fairly quickly with a typical size or shape or something like that, I think that would be very helpful for the manufacturers and very helpful for the developers, right? Because a lot of times a project stops or starts on that conceptual budget for a developer. So if they can have that information, in a couple of days, that really helps the whole team. We kind of pride ourselves with being able to turn around conceptual estimates pretty fast, because that is what a developer will need to budget or a manufacturer will need to budget. So as soon as we can get that out, the sooner the ball gets rolling and really know if it's a real project or if it's feasible or not.
Yep, that makes sense. Especially when, from what I've seen with modular is it's a narrower bill of materials that can be selected to some extent. So from that side, I can see, a lot of efficiency opportunities, but then to what you mentioned, I think that's something that on the fly will vary from project to project. So it's, insightful.
Thank you for that question. That was certainly awesome. A couple of questions for your team, Josh. One is, where is your service area? And then is the GC, are you guys, do you do GC work? Are you solely set and stitch or MEPs? Do you guys do that as well? And then who defines the scope for all these other trades?
Absolutely. So our main office is in Conroe, Texas. So that's about 30-40 minutes north of Houston. We've got a small office in Denver. We say we'll set and stitch basically anywhere in the country. Kind of our hotspots right now are in Texas and Colorado, just where we have our offices. But we will set and stitch nationwide. That's we're set up for it. That's what we do. We'll go across the country doing the set and stitch. as for the general contracting, we typically will only service markets that we have a subcontractor base. So, you know, we don't like to tell you, yeah, we can go general contract anywhere and not know any of the subs in the area, because it's typically not helpful for the project. And we're not set up to be that reaching right now on the GC side. However, like I said before, because we're able to do that, because we're able to general contract, we can complete the team because we can coordinate like we're the GC, even if we're not the GC. We know what needs to happen and how it needs to be correct so that we can show up on site and just get to doing the erection. So our main general contracting areas would be in Texas and really Denver is where we've got our subcontractor bases. On the MEP side, we have traveling crews that will go with us that aren't a part of T&M, but they're partners of T&M. So we have some bases out there that if they're in the range of, you know, say basically Texas and Colorado and states touching those two states, they'll travel with us and complete the MEPs if needed. As for the scope, it really varies project to project. Like we said, we're a team player. So we specialize in our set and stitch, but we can pick up however much needs to be picked up or how little. So it depends on how much the general contractor wants to pick up or the developer wants the GC to pick up or us to pick up. So it's really just a matter of project to project. But you know, we're in that niche where we can really pick up as much or as little as needed for the project.
We can offer a turnkey solution for projects that need it. If they need us to come out and do the site work and they don't have a GC they're attached to already, we can provide those services along with self-performing the set and stitch and all the MEP connections in the set and stitch, as well as all the site MEPs. So we can bring that whole team together, or we can, like Josh said, just be very simple. We can just come in and do a structural set and no stitch. I mean, we are, whatever the teams need, we can provide those services. And that's really how we've set ourselves up. In addition to that, we do offer consulting services too, to get involved maybe in projects we're not going to participate in, but need our information or our knowledge or our experience. We're more than happy to jump in and help out on those projects as well on a consultant, you know, a fee-based system. So we have several options, several solutions for different problems in the industry. So that's how we've set ourselves up, and that's how we want to move this thing forward.
I love that you're offering those consulting services, because I do think that that's so valuable. And especially when you're putting your team together and planning, and let's say you've got your design ready to go, I think it's certainly helpful to have some insight before you get on site with those different details. And maybe at the time you guys might be busy, but it's so great to be able to have another opinion. So I think the consulting services is a very rare opportunity, and hopefully that will help others out there. So thank you for that. Did anybody else have any other questions? I think we've kind of fulfilled a tremendous amount of information in a small amount of time. Josh, did you have anything else that you would like to add, Josh or Tyler, before we close?
Nice. I'd like to thank everybody. This was interesting, and hopefully we got some useful information out there for all to use. And reach out if you have questions, contacts. We have our website. Josh has our contact info. We can share with everybody. But follow us. We're doing great things, and it's happening really, really fast.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times is especially in the set and stitch area, you don't know what you don't know yet. So if you have any questions that come up after you get into this, feel free to reach out. We're always available. If we don't know the answer, we'll find the answer.
I agree with you. And just for everybody out there, Offsite Dirt has a page on LinkedIn. We also are on Facebook. We also have our own media platform, offsitedirt.com. So you will be able to find Josh, and he's very active on LinkedIn. So hopefully you guys will be able to follow him. Thank you, Josh and Ty. Thank you, T&M Construction. Thank you for doing what you do and spending some time with us before you're running off later today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Audrey, for having us. Thank you, everybody, for attending. It's been great.
Yep. Thank you all.
And just to kind of give one last quick update, the Offsite Construction Series will continue next month. It will be on October 26th. We are going to be talking about software. There's a software company called Layer, and they will be introducing some interesting opportunities with modular construction. So I hope you'll join us at that time. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. Other broadcasts that we have done in the past are on our offsitedirt.com channel. Hopefully you'll be able to see us, and we'll have this one available online later this week for anybody that may have missed it or would like to share it. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Ty. Thank you, Audrey, for being a great voice in the industry. See you guys soon.
Thanks.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.